Good evening. My name is Chris Munns. Welcome to the Rennie Cushing Auditorium at Winnacunnet High School. I was elected moderator of the Winnacunnet School District last March, and this is my first deliberative session as your elected moderator, and I am looking forward to our meeting this evening. To start the meeting, I would like everyone to rise and join in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's get started. Again, welcome to the first or deliberative session of the annual meeting of the Winnacunnet School District. This is the annual meeting of all registered voters in the towns that send students to Winnacunnet, Northampton, Hampton, Hampton Falls, and Seabrook. Only the residents of those towns may speak. Under New Hampshire law, the moderator, me, conducts the meeting. The moderator's rulings are final unless the meeting votes to overrule the moderator. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to discuss, debate, and possibly amend the articles in the warrant, which I all hope you have a copy of. My job is to facilitate that process in as orderly a manner as possible. Our ability to amend the warrant is limited. Warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended. We cannot change or eliminate the subject matter of any article. No new purposes can be introduced that voters were not informed of in the posted warrant. We can change dollar amounts in the money articles, and all amendments must be in writing, and we will deal with only one amendment at a time. All questions should be directed to the moderator. I will then choose who responds to the question. No one should speak without first being recognized by the moderator. Once you are recognized, please come forward to speak into the microphone and introduce yourself and where you live. Please focus your remarks on the content of the article or the amendment and refrain from personal comment. All speakers must be courteous and must speak to the issues, not the individuals raising them. I will not allow any personal attacks or inappropriate language. All voting will be conducted by hand or standing unless 5 voters present at the meeting request in writing prior to the vote that the vote be taken by secret written ballot. I, as moderator, will only vote to break or make a tie. If the vote on a motion ties, it loses. One bit of housekeeping before we get started. In the event of an emergency, the emergency exits are on either side and up in the back as well. First order of business, I will entertain a motion to permit the following individuals who work for the SAU or for the Winnacunnet High School who did not live in Northampton, Hampton Falls, or Seabrook to speak, and those individuals are Meredith Nato, who's the superintendent of SAU 21, Bill McGowan, the principal of Winnacunnet, and Matt Ferrara, who's the assistant superintendent. Is there someone who will make that motion?
So moved.
Moved by Leslie LaFont. Is there a second?
Second.
From Tricia O'Keefe. All in favor, please raise your cards if you are a resident. Okay, any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, let's get to business. The first article. First article is the operating budget, and I will read it to you. Shall the school district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth herein, totaling $33,135,855. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $32,960,247, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the school district or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, X and 10 and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only, and a majority vote is required on this warrant. This was recommended by the school budget 5-0, also recommended by the budget committee 5-0. Is there a motion to open discussion?
Mr. Moderator, I move to open the article for discussion.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak to the article? I believe, Matt, you'd like to start?
Yes, thank you. And thank you to the school board and budget committee for their attention and care during the development of the operating budget. We provide the budget committee and the school board upwards of 300 pages of narrative describing every aspect of the budget, how much money we intend to spend, invest in, and the justification. And they took hours with multiple meetings to go through every page and determine what the best use of funds for our school community would be to bring forth what we feel is a fiscally responsible FY25 budget. So when we're developing a budget, we're always aligning that with what our school goals are, what our vision is for our community, and how do we provide an education that promotes creativity, innovation, critical thinking, problem-solving skills, and responsible decision-making for our students. So, with that being said, we allocate resources and align our funding and various accounts with how to achieve that goal with our various planning activities. So we have a number of long-term plans. That includes our annual staffing plan. We have a competency-based education learning plan. We have a facilities plan, capital improvement plan, a 3-year technology plan, and soon we'll be looping in our Portrait of a Learner strategic planning into this budgeting process as we move forward with that strategic planning initiative. So, it's a significant amount of work for the school board and budget committee, and we certainly appreciate all that effort. So thank you. When developing a budget, enrollment is a key metric that we always look at, both from a short-term and a long-term budgeting perspective. Currently, we have 1,073 students here at Winnacunnet, and we are anticipating a slight reduction to 1,067 students in FY25. We do contract out a third-party organization, NESDEC, who takes a look at our demographics, birth rates, and other trends in order to provide us with projections. And we have seen enrollment declines really across the state, but specifically here on the Seacoast and in our sending districts. Our K-8 schools have been seeing declines for the last number of years, and we do anticipate a slight decrease in our enrollment here at Winnacunnet over the next number of years. So our proposed operating budget is $33,135,855. That represents a 6.88% increase. However, it's important to note that it is only a 0.53% increase, or higher than the default budget of $32,960,247. And I think that really paints an important picture and shows how fiscally responsible the school board and budget committee was when looking at this budget. It also highlights some of the challenges that we face with some of our contractually obligated and legally mandated items that are embedded in this budget, and we had very little discretion for some of those variable accounts where potentially invest in initiatives or various projects. So to that point, every year we have budget drivers, and this year was, we had some significant budget drivers. So on the increases side, so various areas where we saw expenditures that drove our budget higher, we saw a cost escalation across the board. So you're all seeing price inflation at home, I'm sure, with your groceries, heating fuels, car insurance, home insurance, just the cost of living for all of us has increased. And the school is no different in that manner. We've seen significant increases across the board with supplies, books, equipment, software, our technology costs, any contracted services. And when I say contracted services, what I really mean is labor. Wage increases, or we've seen wage increases across the board. This is particularly prevalent in our facilities department as well as our food service department, where those costs have gone up disproportionately. Additionally, we're seeing an increase in our special education costs, specifically tuition for our out-of-district placements. So out-of-district placements are for students who we cannot service here at Winnacunnet due to a medical or special education need, and we tuition them out to a school that specializes in those services. And that is based upon that individual student's IEP. We've also seen increases in our special education and general education transportation costs. So that's on the special education side, that is to transport our students both in district, to transport them to and from Winnacunnet, but also transportation to those out-of-district placements that could be in New Hampshire, but there are also schools that we are transporting to Massachusetts or Maine or Vermont, and that can get pricey. Our general education transportation cost reflects year one of a new 5-year contract with First Students. And then we also have seen a significant increase in our health insurance premium rates. So we received a guaranteed maximum rate, a GMR, of 23.7%. That has a very large impact on our budget. However, that's the guaranteed maximum rate. We do not receive our actual rate until March. So they base it on an 18-month trailing claims history. So our hope is that in the interceding 6 months, our claims improve and we might be able to recognize some savings on the actual health insurance rate. So that being said, we have a healthcare expendable trust that we're able to utilize to hedge a little bit for that potential differential. So we under budget our health insurance in that account to offset a large rate increase. Additionally, we are making an investment in an alternative to suspension program. This is a program that we are piloting this year, and it's an alternative to suspension inclusion program that we have partnered with Seacoast Youth Services, and that's meant to implement restorative practices in a more non-punitive way to respond to student infractions. And our hope is that this will reduce future student suspension rates in the future through this program. Additionally, we are wrapping up the end of our large COVID-related grant funding. So the ESSER grant has funded some positions and various projects and services. However, the ESSER grant expires in September of 2024. So we are going to be transferring an existing position that is currently funded via the ESSER grant into the operating budget, and that's our 504 coordinator position. We're seeing some vocational program cost increases. That's SST. And I will note that this is a good and bad situation because it's really great news. Because part of the reason for this increase is we're seeing additional participation level increases. So that means more students are taking part and attending SST. However, that obviously increases our costs. Additionally, the SST governing board does have a tuition rate increase that affects our bottom line. And then finally, we are seeing an increase in our ESOL, contracted services. This is based on student needs. So ESOL is English as a Second Language, where we are legally mandated to provide those services to students with need. And we have seen an increase. Actually, we've seen an increase this current year, our current budget. We are over budget with these services, and we know based on our current students that will continue into next year as well. I will note, however, that we do have an SAU-wide, actually we have two SAU-wide ESOL teachers who budgeted for next year, and this allows us to hire full-time employees that we can deploy to our various districts, because otherwise, if you have an ESOL teacher here in Winnacunnet, we can't utilize that person in a different district. So this structure allows us to move the teachers around to where they're needed, because ESOL is a variable, oftentimes a variable account where there are more services needed in Winnacunnet this year. Next year it may be Seabrook, and the following year it could be Northampton. So it provides us with higher quality employees at a lower cost because we're able to share those costs. So on the flip side, we had to take a real hard look at this budget due to the aforementioned increases that we just reviewed. So as part of our planning process, we do look at our staffing on an annual basis, department by department, to determine what our staffing needs are in order to achieve our goals here at Winnacunnet. So for this year, we do have a number of personnel changes. We are restructuring our ELO director and curriculum coordinator positions and combining it into a single administrative position. And that will result in the reduction of one administrative role. Additionally, we're reducing a business teacher position. I'll note that is a teacher that is retiring, so that is no one will be losing their job. We're also reducing a Spanish teacher and a social studies teacher. Again, one of those positions, a Spanish teacher, is currently unfilled for this year, and the social studies teacher position, there is an announced retirement, so again, no one will be losing their jobs. We always try to align any type of personnel reductions with natural attrition, whether that's retirement or people leaving for different roles. And finally, we're reducing a night custodian position that, again, is currently unfilled, so no one will be losing their job. In addition to those reductions in personnel, we did have general reductions in all of our departments. We took a hard look at any discretionary accounts and made reductions. This is particularly true in the facilities department, where we did defer investment in certain facilities projects based on some of the high costs that we are faced with this budget year. So, as I mentioned earlier, our overall operating budget increase is 6.88%. However, it is only a and this is actually a typo here, 0.53% increase over the default budget. That's important because when you look at the default budget, there are a number of increases to our operating budget that are not included in the default budget. That includes non-union salary increases, non-union health insurance increases, our general education transportation increase, any contractual increases that have not been approved by our community via ballot previously. So CBA items are in the default budget, but any other contractual obligation such as transportation or insurance or software increases, none of those increases can go into the default budget. The aforementioned eliminated positions are all reduced from the default budget. The transfer of the 504 coordinator from the grant to the operating budget cannot be is not in the default budget because it was grant funded. And the new alternative suspension program is not in the default budget. So despite all those very large cost items not being included in the default budget, we are still only a 0.53% differential between the operating budget and the default budget. And again, I think that speaks volumes to the fiscal responsibility of this budget. There were 3 cost items that represented almost $1.7 million: special education, transportation, and health insurance. Those 3 items resulted in $1,688,121 increase to our budget. If those 3 items were removed, our overall operating budget would only be a 1.44% increase. So embedded in the operating budget, we have cost of living adjustments for our employees. And we have 3 classifications of employees. We have our teachers, who are part of the C collective bargaining agreement. That collective bargaining agreement was passed at ballot last year. That was a 4-year agreement and called for a 3% cost of living adjustment for all of our teachers who were part of the collective bargaining agreement. Additionally, we have our non-union employees. So that's our administrators, our administrative assistants, our technology staff, food service staff, and facilities staff. Those employees, we benchmark their cost of living adjustments to the rate of inflation. So we utilize a consumer price index, CPIU, for the Portsmouth region, and we benchmark the 12 months prior. Because when you're looking at inflation, you're always looking 12 months in arrears. So in this case, it was July of 2022 to July of 2023, in which case inflation was 2.8%. So those employees will receive a 2.8% cost of living adjustment. And the third employee classification are our educational associates. Those are our paraprofessionals that work under the CESPA collective bargaining agreement. Their cost of living adjustments and steps are not included in the operating budget because they have a separate warrant article this year. It's warrant article number 2 for a new collective bargaining agreement. And all those costs are rolled into that warrant article. I want to take a moment to just emphasize how important that warrant article is for the administration and school board and budget committee's perspective. These are employees that are essential to the operations of our schools across SAU 21. They are in our classrooms working with our teachers and our students on a daily basis, ensuring that our students receive an exceptional educational experience. They are paid an abysmal rate of pay at between $15 an hour and $19 an hour, and we are encountering extreme difficulty in both hiring these employees and retaining them. We're seeing a turnover rate of 40% across the SAU, and we're hopeful that this CBA will address some of those issues. But these are extremely valuable employees that have a huge outsized impact on our school operations, and I can't emphasize enough how important they are to the team. So I'm going to run through the budget department by department. The first department is the general education, which is budgeted at $8,014,229. That's an increase of $78,686, or 0.99%. This increase is due to the ESOL contracted services due to the larger need for students that require English as a second language services. Additionally, we have increases due to our teacher cost of living adjustment and steps, again, per that CBA I just referenced. And those increases were offset by the reductions I spoke about earlier for the three teacher salaries. Our special education budget is $4,640,133. That's an increase of $790,450. That's 20.53%. I mentioned how large special education that increase was and how it really affected our budget. This is, again, special education costs are based on services that we are legally mandated to provide per the student's IEP. And this increase specifically is primarily due to additional out-of-district placements, so those tuition costs. Other expenditures in the special education department include the addition of a full-time case manager role, so that's a special education teacher, a registered behavior technician, an RBT, who works with students with behavioral needs, as well as an educational associate position. Additionally, we do have professional services that have been shifted from the IDEA grant to the operating budget. Those professional services, when I say professional services, that means related services for special education students. So if we don't have personnel in-house, we do have to contract out positions such as occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, those type of services. Our vocational programs is budgeted at $312,312. Quite the number right there, 312, an increase of $43,536 or 16.2%. That reflects the increase in our students' enrollment, so participation at SST, as well as the annual tuition increase that's determined by the SST's governing board. Our student activities budget is $987,235. That's an increase of $29,252 or 3.05%. And that is due to extracurricular stipends, annual cost of living adjustment. So as part of the teacher's CBA that passed last year, that CBA called for a % increase to those extracurricular stipends. We are also seeing an increase in participation that results in higher dues and fees. And when I say dues and fees and officials, equipment costs, those are all those variable costs that are associated with our sports teams and our non-athletic groups. So that would be a referee, umpires, officials for a chess match, those type of expenditures. Those increases were offset by reductions in our rentals, athletic supplies, and non-athletic supplies accounts. So our summer school budget is $80,750, an increase of $1,500 or 1.89%. And this is a reflection of cost inflation as well as higher student participation. Our evening school is budgeted at $150,657, an increase of $11,691 or 8.41%. So the evening school has been supplemented via grant funding. There was actually 2 grants that used to fund the evening school. That has since been consolidated to a single grant, and it's been consistently reduced every year. As every year we will see an additional cost from the operating budget as we're seeing lower grant funding for that program. Our guidance budget is $1,193,107. That's an increase of $214,063 or 21.86%. So this is due to 2 items that I talked to before that were big budget drivers. One is the alternative to suspension program, that inclusive program that we're partnering with Seacoast Youth Services, again, to provide restorative practices in non-punitive ways to respond to student infractions in school. We hope that this will result in future students, result in a reduction in future student suspension rates. We've been collecting data this entire year as we've been piloting this program, and we're already seeing great returns on that investment. Additionally, the guidance department includes that 504 coordinator position that we're transferring from the ESSER grant into the operating budget. So our health services budget is $178,333, an increase of $4,319 or 2.48%. So this is a reflection of the staff cost of living adjustment, their steps, and those are offset slightly by a reduction in supplies. Our speech services budget is $71,023, a reduction of $519 or 0.73%. And this is based on a new hire. So when we have turnover in staff, when we hire the new person, depending on where they fall on the salary schedule, we may see an increase or a decrease. In this case, the new hire came in slightly less than what we had budgeted. Our other support services is kept open with $1. Our improvement of instruction budget is $361,917, a decrease of $82,818 or 18.62%. This reflects that administrative restructuring where we are combining the ELO director position and curriculum coordinator position into a single director of the title will be determined at a later date, but and I'm forgetting what we had discussed. But this results in a reduction of one administrative position. Our educational media budget is $203,598, an increase of $7,903 or 4.04%. That is due to the staff cost of living adjustments, step increases, information access fees that have increased in cost, and we did see a reduction in our books, print media, as well as a reduction in our repair maintenance accounts. Our information technology budget is $773,086, an increase of $26,772 or a 3.59% increase. We align our information technology account with our 3-year school board approved technology plan, and the intent of that technology plan is to lay out our investment in our technology needs. So that includes our one-to-one Chromebooks, replacement cycle, our staff laptops and computer replacement cycles, our server replacement cycles, wireless upgrades, all those technology infrastructure needs, and we spread those costs out over those cycles in order to avoid big fluctuations from year to year and big capital investments in technology. And that is intended to maintain our tax rates to our taxpayers as best we can, so there's not big fluctuations. So the primary reason for this increase is due to the staff cost of living adjustments, and I had mentioned the wireless upgrade project. That was a 2-year project, and the total cost ended up coming in. So this was the first year, and now we're budgeting for next year. Total cost is coming in higher than we anticipated. I'll also note that we do receive E-rate grant reimbursements for that project that will substantially reduce the overall tax impact. Our support services budget is $70,000. That reflects no increase, and that is the school's portion of the school resource officer, our SRO's salary. So our school resource officer is actually a town of Hampton Police Department employee. So the SRO works for the police department, and we have an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, with the police department to utilize their services. And so we pay for a portion of the salary during the school year, and then the police department picks up the remaining costs for school rates. Our Board of Education budget is $82,504, an increase of $3,205 or 4.04%, and that reflects an increase in our audit services and annual meeting costs, as well as cost of living adjustments for our district officers. So our audit services is for our annual independent audit that's done by Plodzik and Sanderson, a third party. So we have a 5-year contract with them. And I will also note that district officers, that would be the stipends for our treasurer, our school board members, our moderator, school district clerk, and recording secretary. SAU services is budgeted at $1,030,461, an increase of $12,757 or 1.25%. So the SAU services account reflects Winnacunnet's portion of the SAU budget. The SAU budget would be the Office of the Superintendent, the Business Office, Accounts Payable, Payroll, Human Resources, Curriculum Instruction and Assessments, and Student Services. We also provide for or contract out various softwares and technology that we share across the SAU. And that's really the intent of the SAU, is to consolidate resources and share costs across multiple districts where we can achieve economies of scale, share resources, and create efficiencies. So, for example, we have a number of technology softwares that are shared across districts. We negotiate out SAU-wide energy contract for our electric and natural gas and oil costs. We have a printer lease contract SAU-wide that reduced those printer costs by 30%. And then more importantly, we work with our sending K-8 schools and Winnacunnet to align our curriculum and best prepare our students in a similar fashion to graduate from 8th grade to Winnacunnet High School. That being said, the SAU takes care that each of our sending districts and Winnacunnet are unique, have their own identity and culture, so we try to maintain that individuality and autonomy for each of our districts. Our school administration budget is $1,074,829. That's an increase of $20,677 or 1.96%. So that reflects salary cost of living adjustments, step increases, increased costs for graduation, and those are offset by reductions in our rental lease equipment and reductions in dues and fees. Our buildings budget is $1,881,876, a decrease of $36,316 or 1.89%. As I mentioned earlier, we do align our buildings, grounds, and vehicles accounts with our facilities plan. And this decrease is due to the reduction of one night custodian, reductions in a number of accounts, including consultants, fire extinguishers. When I say fire extinguishers, it's actually inspections of the fire extinguishers and purchasing fire extinguishers. Supplies, heating fuels, furniture, equipment, and overtime. Those decreases were offset by slight increases in salary cost of living adjustments, electricity, repair and maintenance, renovations, insurance, and water. Our grounds budget is $258,106, a reduction of $15,424 or 5.64%. And that's based on decreases in our grounds repair, parking lot maintenance, and equipment, with a slight increase in our snow removal. I'm hoping for some more snow. We'll see. For all those skiers and snowboarders out there. Our vehicles budget is $42,936, an increase of $10,536 or 32.52%. So this reflects a need to purchase a skid steer. That's to replace a tractor that has reached end of life. And this is necessary for a number of reasons, but We need to transport pallets, assist with snow removal, applying seed, moving loam, and aerating our fields. Our transportation budget is $1,649,916, an increase of $307,950, or 22.95%. And I mentioned before the increases in transportation, primarily special education transportation costs, but also our new 5-year contract with First Student, who does supply our general education, field trip, and other transportation services. Our debt service is budgeted at $1,978,187, an increase of $6,748, or 0.34%. So this account provides the principal and interest payments for our bond issue for our last building project. I will note the last payment is scheduled for August of 2024, so that's later this year. Also, due to refinancing, we did receive over $500,000 in refunds over the last 20 years. But it's important to note that that last payment is scheduled in August, because that means there'll be $2 million coming off next year's budget. We've aligned our roof replacement project with this reduction in the bond. So we have a major roof replacement project. The first phase is this year, and then next year, when this bond comes off the books, we're going to fund the bulk of the roof replacement project, which is this entire building plus the gymnasium, to the tune of approximately a little over $3 million. And in this way, by doing about just under $1 million this year and then about $2 million next year, we're trying to maintain our tax rates for our residents as best we can. It's essentially extending the bond one additional year. Our employee benefits budget is $7,458,360, an increase of $680,646, or 10.04%. So that is due to that aforementioned health insurance premium increase of 23.7%, as well as the associated benefits costs for any salary costs or staff salary cost of living adjustments. So those cost of living adjustments also raise what our contribution when it comes to retirement. So we, through the New Hampshire retirement system, we're responsible for 20% of the salary that's contributed to NHRS for our teachers, and then about 14% for other employees. Additionally, we have variable FICA costs. However, those costs were offset due to two reasons. One is the under budgeting of the health insurance account by utilizing our healthcare expendable trust. So we have a healthcare expendable trust that we use to hedge against these large health insurance increases. Our hope is that we are able to absorb those costs, or we may see plan changes where, because we're budgeting 12 to 18 months in advance, with new employees, we might see lower costs for health insurance based on their selections. I'm not banking on that, but what I am hoping for is there's a differential between the GMR and the actual rate based on claims history. If we still have a deficit, we can utilize that healthcare expendable trust, but we're under budgeting by $300,000 in this account. Secondly, we're saving on benefits with the reductions in the staff that we had spoken about earlier. So our interfund transfer, we are budgeting $3,000. So this is a new increase that we are responsible to pay for unpaid student meal balances. We have two funds. We have the general fund. We just went through all of the departments that represent the general fund. That's school operations. It's what it costs to run a school. But then we have a food service fund. The food service fund is intended to be self-sustaining via revenue received through USDA reimbursement. So that's the National School Lunch Program for reimbursement for free and reduced lunches, as well as revenue for staff and students who purchase their lunches. Now, if that program, that food service program runs at a loss, the general fund needs to cover that deficit. So that's where the interfund transfer comes in, is to cover that deficit. We do not run at a deficit, so we do not have to cover that deficit. However, we are required now to cover the cost of any unpaid balances for our families, and that cannot be funded through the food service fund. It needs to be funded through the general fund. So that is why we have $3,000 in the interfund transfer. Our food service budget is $639,299, an increase of $14,675, or 2.35%. That reflects price inflation. Foods are, so the cost of food, we've seen that's a disproportionate increase, as well as supplies, paper goods. Those type of costs have really increased. We also have our staff salary cost of living adjustment and steps, and those increases were offset by some slight reductions in our substitutes, workshop seminars, and other expenses. So that brings us to the default budget of $32,960,247. As I had mentioned earlier, the default budget is only $175,608 less than the proposed operating budget. That is a very lean differential. The default budget is defined as the prior year's budget, and then either increased or decreased. The case may be either by debt service, contracts, any legally mandated items, and then reduced by any eliminated positions, and reduced by any one-time expenditures. So in this case, the default budget was reduced by those positions that were eliminated, and they were, and looking forward to next year, when that bond issue comes off the books, that $2 million will also come off the default budget next year. But these are the two, unfortunately we don't have a large audience this evening. I'm hopeful that we have, everyone's tuning in on TV, and they'll go on our website and see all of our budget materials and videos. However, for those members of our community that are not watching this presentation and do not see the budget materials, they're only going to see two numbers. One is our proposed operating budget and the default budget. That's here on this page when they go to vote on March 12th and see the ballot. So I think that tells a good story in that we are the default budget is so close to the operating budget and the fiscal responsibility of the school board and the budget committee. So with that said, thank you very much. Thank you for bearing with my my extended narrative.
Thank you, Matt. It's hard to believe that the bond is almost paid off. 20 years has gone like that. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the article, the warrant article, ask any questions? If so, come forward to the microphone. Seeing no one, I will, I'm sorry? Can you come on down to the microphone?
Yes, good evening. Frank Bajowski, Huckleberry Lane in Hampton. The debt payment is what, roughly $2 million for the year?
Correct.
Which comprises 6% of the operating, or the budget that you're proposing?
Thereabouts, yeah.
I mean, that's just paying the interest, correct?
Principal and interest.
Principal and interest. Okay, so have you broken down the amount of the interest itself on that, or?
I mean, we have an amortization schedule.
Yeah, I'm just curious because, it's such a large percentage of the budget itself. I would have thought that for building maintenance and things of that sort, would have anticipated a recurring program over years.
So the principal is $1,960,000, it's only $18,000 in interest, but keep in mind, it's the last year.
No, I understand
So
that,
it's-
but I mean, are we gonna get into this again next year? Or we're gonna have to borrow again next year for building maintenance and that?
We're not intending to borrow, we're not going to do a bond issue. What we're proposing is, including in the operating budget, well, not including as a separate warrant article, we're going to have the roof project, so that's a one-year, one-time expense.
Matt, you might want to refresh everyone's memory on what the bond was for.
So the bond was for this addition to the school. That was the original, and the original amount was, the original amount was, Bill?
I think it was about 20, I believe it was about $22 million, and that included the gym, the main entrance where you come into the building, and also some renovations throughout the building.
Yeah, so are we anticipating anything like that in the future? Or?
We currently do not have anything of that extent in our capital improvement plan, but we do have a capital improvement plan with projects which include the roof. We have our HVAC replacement cycles. The one thing I can think of that's kind of a larger item that we're looking as far as renovations would be Alumni Field. We're looking at building out restrooms in that area where the stands are, but certainly nothing of the renovation of the magnitude of this bond.
Yeah, I would hope not. Not for
That'd be a
bathrooms.
nice bathroom, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I would say so. Okay. that's-
Construction costs have increased, so.
Yeah, I'm just thinking with a stable enrollment, relatively stable or declining enrollment, you wouldn't need to expand.
No, there's no need for additional space.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, the article will appear on the ballot as written. And is there a motion to reconsider?
Mr. Moderator, I move to restrict reconsideration of Article 1.
And is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Looks like the majority wins. Thank you. We will restrict reconsideration on Article 1. We'll move on to Article 2. To see if the school district will vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Winnacunnet School Board and the Seacoast Educational Support Personnel Association for the following increases and reductions in salaries and benefits at the current staffing levels. For the 2024 year, the estimated salary increase is $43,977. The estimated benefits increase is $14,156, and the total estimated costs are $58,133. For the 25-26 year, estimated salary increase of $47,976. Estimated benefit increase, $13,187. Total estimated costs, $61,163. 26-27 year, the estimated salary increase is $24,429. Estimated benefits increase, $34,531. Total estimated costs, $58,960. And for the 27-28 year, the estimated salary increase is $23,988. Estimated benefits increase is $56,960. The total estimated costs are $52,910, and that looks like it might be a typo. I don't know, Matt, if that's the correct number or not. Something's not right.
Yeah, there appears to be a typo on the estimated benefits increase.
Okay, we need to make sure that we correct that.
We will correct that. The total is accurate, the 52,910.
Okay. Okay. So that will That will have to be fixed on the final warrant. And continuing, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $58,133 for the 24-25 school year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels in accordance with the current collective bargaining agreement. And a majority vote is required. This was recommended by the school board 5-0, recommended by the budget committee 5-0. And note, in order for this article to be adopted, it must be approved by the voters of the school districts of Hampton Falls, Northampton, Seabrook, Southampton, and the voters of the Winnacunnet Cooperative School District, which includes Hampton voters. And before I ask for a motion, I have a question for our attorney. Given that there is a typo on the warrant, do we need to do an amendment to formally change that amount, or can we just make the correction in the final version?
You can make the correction. It's a typographical error. If Matt has the number and if he wants to do it by motion, you can do that. But typically, this article is not subject to an amendment. So I would allow Matt to announce the number if you have that correct figure, but otherwise it's something that can be corrected without action of this meeting.
Okay. Okay. So if you have it, Matt, great. If you don't, then that's something we'll just correct.
So the estimated benefits increase for 27-28 should be 28,922.
I'm sorry, what was that number?
28,922.
28,922. Okay, great. So, is there a motion to place this on the ballot?
I move to open the article for discussion.
And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the article? Looks like you're ready to talk, man.
Thank you.
We're going to go here first and then them, right?
Yes.
Yes, got it. Just wait. He's going to go first, then you guys.
Thank you. This warrant article represents the Seacoast Education Support Personnel Association, or CESPA, their collective bargaining agreement. I want to note that this warrant article received a unanimous recommendation from all of our school boards and all of our budget committees, which is exceedingly rare to see across all of our member districts, everyone recognizing just how important this warrant article is. And I cannot emphasize how important this warrant article is. This represents the CBA for our educational associates, or also referred to as paraprofessionals or paraeducators or educational assistants. There's different terms for these employees, but the bottom line is these are incredibly important employees who affect our student learning on a daily basis in the classroom, assisting our teachers, working with our students in order to provide individualized and personalized education and opportunities for our students. They are absolutely essential to the success of our learning environment. I'll also note that this is not just special education. So in many cases, our educational associates are working with some of our most vulnerable students in special education, but we have other educational associates that are working with our lower grade levels, working with students who are learning their foundational skills, whether that's early literacy or early math skills, and it is so incredibly important to have another adult in the classroom to assist with that individualized instruction. Now the problem that we are facing is that we simply are not competitive with our compensation or our benefits for these incredible employees. We only pay them $15 an hour to $19 an hour, and that does not compete with comparable school districts in our area, and it doesn't compete with retail businesses where any one of them can go and get a job at BJ's and make significantly more, which is not right. We also only offer a single person, low-cost health insurance plan, which again does not compete with other school districts or with local businesses. So we face a challenge as a school, at Winnacunnet and our other schools, in that it's incredibly difficult to find highly qualified EAs, and it's incredibly difficult to retain the great employees that we currently have. I know our current EAs, they love what they do, they love the students, they wouldn't be here otherwise because we're not paying them. However, at some point, they're going to rethink whether they can afford to live under these conditions. So we're hopeful that this will address those issues, that the CBA will work towards improving that differential. We're currently seeing a 40% turnover rate across the SAU for these educational associates, and we're hopeful that this warrant article will address those concerns. So what this CBA calls for is a $2 per hour increase in years 1 and 2, a $1 an hour increase in years 3 and 4, and it offers a 2-person health insurance plan in year 3 and a family plan in year 4. We're also offering an additional paid holiday, as well as we're removing step 1 from the salary schedule so that we can get a more competitive starting pay rate for any new employees. This is an incredibly modest amount of money for employees that have an outsized impact on our schools. When you look at the total cost, here at Winnacunnet, it's under $60,000. It's a drop in the bucket when we're looking at a $33 million budget. And if it doesn't fail, we're at real risk of a real negative effect to our school. If this, and there is, we do have a challenge when it comes to passing these warrant articles, because we have a cooperative collective bargaining structure here at SAU 21, where if this fails in any one district on the ballot, then it fails for all the other districts. So we really need a cooperative effort from our voters in order to pass this CBA. But should it fail, these employees will get 0 cost of living adjustment and 0 steps, and they will not receive any benefits increase. So I cannot emphasize enough just how important this warrant article is for our schools. It is the administration's top priority, and I encourage anyone who's watching to go on our website, and we have a video, we have the tentative agreement with all the details and a PowerPoint for you to learn more about this very important CBA. Thank you.
And was there someone else that wanted to speak? If you could come to the microphone.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Susan Howland. I have worked in SAU 21 since 1998. I worked 3 years at the academy, and I am now on my 23rd year at the high school. Bill has not asked me to leave yet. Although I am being asked when I'm retiring, I don't know if that's the same thing or not, but I'll pretend it's not. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the paraprofessionals CBA warrant article on the March ballot, which includes Northampton, Southampton, Hampton Falls, Winnacunnet, Seabrook Elementary, and middle school paraprofessionals. We are referred to many names: paraprofessionals, teaching assistants, or EAs, and I won't tell you what the students refer to us at times. I'm sure it's much nicer, but we'll keep that for later. We're a collective group of assistants made up of newer hires to those who have been here for many, many years. I think Winnacunnet, when we added up all of the paraprofessionals, how many years, we're at approximately over 180 years of experience between the 16 EAs that are here. Obviously, we love our jobs. So some of the things that we do, we come with our own skill sets and understanding of what it takes to keep the gears moving in all of the levels of the schools. We continue to be knowledgeable, but more importantly, flexible and versatile. Some days that comes with little to no notice, which is almost every day. Our schedules will change. It may not be what we thought we would be doing, where we thought we would be, or even who we thought we'd be working with. But with that, we hit the ground running and we never ask questions. EAs work with entire classes as a one-on-one or with small groups, all being either general ed, special ed, or a combination. We assist students all day long. Some of the students that we work with are some of the toughest students and most significant needs in the schools. They require toileting, that's already on my tongue, so it's toileting, getting their lunches, helping them eat those lunches, escorting them to classes, and their emotional needs. We work in many different classes. My day consists of 3 math classes, a business class, an English class, and a learning lab. Do I have to know all of those things? Pretty much, to help the students. I do, I've learned. We help students to catch up on missed work, time to practice their skills, and their social emotional learning. You would not believe how many times in the course of a day I hear, "This is stupid, why do I have to do it anyway?" What I hear is, "I feel stupid because I don't think I can do this." That's where I step in. I show them that they can do it, that we break down the problem. I hear this a lot in math. Who cares about point slope form? Sorry, math department. But I'm teaching them how to break the problem up and how to have confidence in themselves. So the next time they see a problem and feel stupid and don't think they can do it, they know that they can. And that's part of being a lifelong learner. And that's what we contribute to that you won't see on paper. It's very true that even for the EAs, there's not enough time in a day, especially for those assistants that need to fill out daily Medicaid logs and run monthly reports of these logs for designated students. It takes time. Our time is money. Never met an educational assistant who doesn't need money. Many EAs have bachelor's or associate's degrees or many, many years of experience. Right now, the top pay is $22,700. So a lot of the assistants are working 2 jobs just to get by. Rents in this area are $2,500 plus. Some of our high school students are making more money than some of our EAs, and that's kind of sad. We do not fall under the same contracts as the teachers. We do not benefit from their contract which passed last year. In the upcoming March 12th election, there is a warrant article with the new paraprofessional CBA. It has been 4 years since we have brought one forth. This CBA comes highly recommended by all school boards. We EAs are here to ask the community to please think of all that has been shared this evening. All that we do for the schools, for the teachers, and of course the students. We know you're probably thinking we just can't afford it, but ask yourself, can we not afford this? We love our jobs, we're good at our jobs, we treat it as professionals, and we appreciate you taking the time and supporting us in the CPA. Thank you, and this is my support team. And feel free if you have any questions, ask them.
Thank you very much. I can speak from personal experience the impact that paraprofessionals make on the lives of students. My son would not have been able to graduate on time from Winnacunnet and also get his associate's degree from Great Bay Community College if it hadn't been for the support of the paraprofessionals here at Winnacunnet. So thank you for all the work that you do. Anyone else like to speak? Any other comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, the article will appear on the ballot as written with the small correction to what the estimated benefits increase is for 27-28.
And I'd like to move to restrict reconsideration for Article 2.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you, the motion passes. Okay, Article 3. To see if the school district, oh, you can't leave, you have to stay for the end.
We have to be right on bushy tail, we have to keep up.
Oh, okay, well, that's a good answer.
Thank you.
Article 3, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $400,000 for HVAC upgrades at Winnacunnet High School. This project is part of the facility plan adopted by the school board. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation for RSA 32:7, Roman numeral 6, and will not lapse until the project is complete or June 30th, 2027, whichever is earlier. A majority vote is required. And this motion is recommended by the school board 5-0 and also recommended by the budget committee 5-0. Is there a motion to open discussion?
I move to open the article for discussion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak to the article? It looks like Matt is raring to go again.
Thank you. So yes, the school board is proposing the issuance of a warrant article to raise and appropriate $400,000 to fund the planned HVAC upgrades project, and that is per the HVAC replacement plan, and it's also included in our 5-year capital improvement plan, which is submitted to and presented to the capital improvement plan committees for our various towns. The proposed HVAC upgrades project reflects the scheduled upgrades per that plan, and it's part of the ongoing replacement cycle that includes ongoing HVAC replacement, upgrades, controls integration, and duct cleaning as the systems reach end of life. This cycle helps minimize large one-time expenditures for multiple system replacements and levels the spending over multiple years. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak to that or any questions? Seeing none, that article will appear on the warrant as written. Is there a motion to reconsider?
I move to restrict the reconsideration of Article 3.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Wow. Thank you. That motion is adopted. Article 4, to see if the school district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $975,000 for year 1 of a multi-year project to replace and repair the roofs at Winnacunnet High School. This project is part of the facility plan adopted by the school board. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7, Roman numeral 6, and will not lapse until the project is complete or June 30th, 2029, whichever is earlier. A majority vote is required. This is recommended by the school board 5-0 and recommended by the budget committee 5-0. Is there a motion to open discussion?
I move to open the discussion.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm not even going to ask if anybody wants to speak to the article. Matt, take it away.
Thank you. So the school board is proposing the issuance of a warrant article to raise and appropriate $975,000 to fund the planned first phase of our roof replacement project per the roofing plan and our 5-year capital improvement plan. A total main school building and gymnasium roof replacement is scheduled for the 2024 through 2026 summers at an estimated cost of $3.5 million, including all translucent panels and skylights. This will be phased into a multi-year project, those 3 years, starting in the summer of 2024. Funding will be over 2 years, so that's this initial year, and then the bulk of the funding will be raised in the next year's budget via a separate warrant article, and that will align with our building bond expiration, which will offset that cost. And that's it. The intent is to minimize that taxpayer impact. Thank you.
Any questions? Seeing none, the article will appear on the warrant as written. Is there a motion to reconsider?
I move to restrict reconsideration of Article 4.
And is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That was a favor vote, right? 3-2. A delayed favor vote? Okay, thank you. It's unanimous again. Okay, thank you. That concludes the first session of the annual meeting of the Winnacunnet School District. The second session, where all registered voters of Northampton, Hampton, Hampton Falls, and Seabrook will have an opportunity to vote on the articles we reviewed here this evening, will take place on March 14th, 2023. In addition to these warrant articles, voters also will be electing individuals to the following positions. The Winnacunnet School Board member for Hampton for a 3-year term. The two candidates who have filed for that position are Nicole Seco and Frank, and I apologize if I mess up your name, Bajowski. Good. Thank you both for running. The Winnacunnet, the other position is the Winnacunnet School Board at-large member. And there are two candidates who have filed for that position as well, Leslie LaFont and Charles Shannon, and thank you both for running. In addition, there are 3 spots on the Winnacunnet Budget Committee open. Unfortunately, no candidates have filed for those positions, but the positions are Budget Committee member for Seabrook for a 2-year term, the Budget Committee member for Hampton, which would be a 3-year term, and the Budget Committee member at large, which is also a 3-year term. And if anyone is interested in running for those positions, get with your friends and mount a write-in campaign. Voting on March 12th, is it 12th or 14th? 14th, sorry, voting on March 14th.
It's the 12th. It's a misprint in the yellow sheet. It's
Oh.
Tuesday, March 12th.
I was right.
That's not yours, that sounds.
Okay, 2 misprints. Okay. Voting on March 12th will take place in Northampton at the Northampton School Gymnasium, and the polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. In Hampton, here at Winnacunnet in the dining hall, polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Hampton Falls will be at the Lincoln Ackerman School Cafeteria. Polls there are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And Seabrook at the Seabrook Recreation Center, the polls there are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Please don't forget to vote, and please encourage your friends and families and neighbors to do so as well. Thank you all, and good night.